Okay, good afternoon or good morning. Welcome to another webinar from TopStep. My name is Ron Bro. I will be your presenter today for the very exciting topic of custom calculations. Custom calculations are a really powerful way to be able to bring reporting and report values together out of OpenAir that aren't naturally there, customized to how your business. So very powerful, great use cases on how to use them. And we'll talk a little bit about some of those and making sure that we're setting those up correctly to get to the right result. Some of the report configuration you need to keep in mind, and a couple of tips and tricks so you don't get stuck. So configurable way to add to your reporting values gives you a way to control the equation. You can create custom calcs to create new values that are not otherwise there, or you can sometimes create custom calcs just so that you can control the equation, rename the equation, and we'll talk about what that looks like. The other thing you can do is you can pre-filter the results. So I remember back in the day before custom calculations were available, customers wanted to say, can I see, different utilization values in the same report? And you couldn't. That was a limitation. We'd have to have different reports for different utilization. Now with custom calculations and the ability to filter them, you can actually now bring in different values, and we'll show you that in a few slides. You can also define date ranges within a calculation. Another question we've gotten before, and in a report, I want to have a sub-date value for this, so charge projections. I only want to see charge projections for this date, but I want a report start and end date beyond those dates. And so that's another use case for using date ranges. And then, as I mentioned, you may just want to rename standard fields. Some of the naming conventions in OpenAir reporting values can be quite lengthy. You dump them into Excel, they make all the columns get all difficult to see and read. So maybe you want to rename those fields, and using a custom calculation is a nice way to do that. You can access, obviously, custom calculations in the latest UI under Administration, Global Settings, Reports, Custom Calcs is where you would click to see those. So before you get started, a couple things you need to verify. Obviously, if you're an admin, you can go ahead and get started. If you want to give permissions to other non-admin roles, you'll need to check their role, make sure they've got the calculated fields role. These switches, I would say everyone gets these automatically enabled now. They used to have to request them back in the day when calculations were new, but these are the switches behind the scenes that everyone should have already in their system. If you don't see one of these options on your calculations, you probably have an older version of OpenAir and you may be missing one of these switches. So what is a calculation? It is just that. It's a calculation that you define as an equation. So gets back to our fun math days. Here's one where we want to be able to have our own definition of worked hours, where worked hours is all hours but not rejected hours. So in this example, we said let's take all the hours and then let's subtract the rejected hours, and we're going to create a new title of a new field called worked hours. And by doing this, now you've created a new reporting value that you can bring into reports and dashboards. The operation must include either a plus, a minus, a multiplication or times, and a divided by, or divided by. So one of those must be part of each calculation you create. If you leave the operation blank, it will allow you to do that, but it won't do anything, obviously, because there's no operation telling the calculation what to do. So it will basically just do nothing. So you do need to make sure you set that operation. You can create different types of custom calcs based on types of reports. So we try to instruct our customers to try to always, unless you have a very specific report requirement, use a company summary report. A company summary report gives you the most flexibility to bring in, timesheet data, expense data, project data, be able to subtotal by multiple levels and values without having to, start over with a new template. But for that reason, generally the custom calcs, we recommend also doing account-wide company, again, giving you the most flexibility to be able to use those values. If you choose, say, for example, an account-wide project report, right? So, and you try to add a custom calc that was built as an account-wide company summary, then you're not going to be able to find that calculation. So you would have to go and create a new calc specific to the type of project report template you're using. So be cognizant of the report templates as well as the type of calculation. Filtering was awesome when it came out, and filtering in custom calcs just does make so much of a difference. You want to create a filter that says, show me all my billable hours. Maybe you want to filter that by with non-billable task equals yes or no. And it is inclusive, not exclusive. So it is inclusive filter in custom calculations. So being able to filter by all the different values. And basically you can filter by any report value that shows up when you create the report. So lots of options for filtering. So here's a tip. If you have the option in a report, because in a report filter, you can exclude values as well as include values. And sometimes excluding values makes more sense. So, and we'll give you an example of what that might look like. You cannot do so the same in a custom calc. So you don't want to keep updating the custom calc filter every time you create new data that you want to include in the custom calc filter. So there is a trick to being able to create and exclude custom calc without being able to do it in a direct filter. So the way you would do that is first you would create a custom calc that includes the values that should be excluded. Second, you would then create a new custom calc that subtracts that calc from the full value. So here's an example. So I want to report on top step client time, right? So my first calc would say I would want to exclude top step, any time entered against top step projects, but you can't exclude. So my first calc would be timesheet hours minus or times 1, and we'll talk about constants in a minute. You can create a constant and then filter by top step. So now I'm creating top step time, and then I would come in and create a second calc that says all time minus the calc we created. So this is a way of workaround to be able to exclude any time against top step, where top step is the client of the project, and be able to get on our project or customer time spent in a custom calc. So you were able to create two calculated fields to get to the value you're looking for. Date filter allows you to hard code dates, or you can use metadates. If you don't see date filters on your reports and or on your custom calcs, those need to be enabled. Generally, I think the instances we've been working with all have those enabled already, but if you don't see them, under reports where we found the calcs, there's also reporting options. And here you can check the box to include or exclude different date ranges within your reporting. And so just another tip, if you don't want the date ranges, you can disable them here as well. But you can do metadata, date ranges within the custom calc, as well as within the reports themselves down at the bottom section of the summary reports or cross tabs reports. So how can I make an equation where I want to filter a single value? So this is where I mentioned earlier where you can use constants to help you create a value filtered by a tag in the system. So under custom detail fields, you have the ability to create constant, and the system comes with a couple of constants out of the box. You'll probably see those in your summary values, but basically what it's doing is it's creating basically a 1. And what happens in math when you multiply something times 1, you get the something. And that's really what you're doing, is you're taking timesheet hours times 1, and then within the filters, you're filtering in what you want that to include. And now you've created a new value by taking taking a constant, applying it to a value. When you're setting up your constant, a few things you need to think about. We always set it as a ratio field, and do not check the apply constant to each time entry. We'll get unexpected results. The other thing you can do as a constant is you can create a 0 value without creating a constant. Just take a normal custom calc and have a value minus itself, which will create 0. Then when you go to create a new custom calc, you could just say, this value minus the 0 value, x minus 0 is x, and then again use the filter. So if you are struggling with getting a constant to show up the way you want, sometimes depending on what you're trying to report on, constants can be a little tricky, making sure you get the right constant, because there's some tricks to being able to create these constants. You can always go to a 0 value report, custom calc, and use that instead. And this is what I meant by constants can be tricky. For example, if you take resource all booked hours times 1, and 1 is a time entry constant, as long as the project has time on it, the equation works. But if there's no time on the project yet, then the equation shows 0 as a result. And that's because there's no time, the time constant doesn't have any values, and so it basically doesn't give you a value of booked hours. So in that scenario, you would not use a time base. You would create a constant based on bookings by day, and then that would allow you. Or you could create a 0 and create it that way as well. So be careful mixing and matching. If I go back a screen, you'll see up here this association is where when you create a constant, you select the association. So be careful in mixing that with other values. So here you can see a combination of standard values, constants, combination of custom calcs. Utilization is probably the #1 reason to our custom calcs. A long time ago, before custom calcs were available, there was some old advanced reports that you would configure utilization. But those were 1 utilization flavor per report. Here we can use calcs now to whip up different utilization calculations and have those all appear on the same report. So you can see some of the ones up top are just using standard values, using a constant, and then using filters inside to create the correct value. You can also see that some of these are calculations within calculations as well. So you can obviously create a calc and then create a calc within a calc and calc within a calc. You can get quite complicated and to get to where you need to be. But sometimes you just got to do that to get to where you're trying to get to. One recommendation in your list view, if you're looking at your list of calculations, you want to probably organize your list view to show, your left operand, your operation, and your right operand. And so this really kind of quickly tells, I can quickly look and see, okay, what is my title? What is this calculation doing? Now you can't see what's being filtered as part of your view here, but at least I can see what's being done in the calculation, and I need more information, I can open it up. So just a kind of a little tip here is this is a kind of a helpful way to to look at your list views when you're looking at your calcs. When you go to naming calculations, be aware if you're creating, for example, in this one, we go back to our timesheet hours minus rejected hours. When I hit save, it's going to prepend whatever module of the left operand. So if I'm choosing timesheet all hours as my left operand, if I don't check the box, do not automatically prepend module, it's going to put a timesheet dash worked hours redefined. So it's going to bury my calc inside of my timesheet module summary values. And you may want that. That may be what you want. But if you don't want that, what we recommend is you can create this do not automatically prepend option. And it will basically, you'll create a value that's just called worked hours. And then you go to your list view, you can search down to your W's and you'll see worked hours as a standalone value that you can add to your report. So just a couple of options here. And then in the new report interface, for those of you using cross-tabbed and reporting, if you're looking for measures or values to add to your report, there is a little FX symbol, if you haven't noticed it, that shows that it's a custom calc. So just something to be aware of if you're looking at a value, trying to decide, is it a standard value or is it a custom value? There is an FX in the new reporting interface. We've also had customers, when they name their custom calcs, put like a asterisk in front, and that helps the person creating reports know that this is not a standard field, but a calculated field using asterisks. So it's a different way to identify what types of fields are custom versus which types of fields are standard. So a couple of things about using custom calculations in reports. You may create, let's say we create a value called billable utilization using a combination of custom calcs, and we're filtering on task type equals billable to get to our billable utilization value. So then we want to add billable utilization to a report, but we then go in and put a task type filter that contradicts the filter inside of the custom calc. Well, you would think that this would cause a conflict and you would get no results in the report. However, the custom calc ignores the report filter. So be aware, the custom calc filter wins. The only time the report filter will work is if you have other values that are not custom calc that are using that filter. So it's a little bit of an oddity. You would expect different behavior, but it does basically still give you values even though you have conflicting filters. So we generally recommend, when you're using custom calcs, if you can avoid using any reporting filters and let the custom calc filters rule the day, that's going to give you your best results and less and more consistency in your reporting. However, if you put a date range in a custom calc, and then the report you create doesn't include that date range, you will get no values in the report. So filters override from the custom calc, but dates do not. So dates behave the way that you would expect. So in our example here, we created a custom calc called August hours. We've got a hard-coded date in the custom calc. We added to a report. We got a 3-month report going November, October, September. August is not in that report, so the August hours is null. So different behaviors, different scenarios, but be aware. We generally try to avoid custom calc dates unless we have to. They can just get a little tricky, and the report building can get a little tricky. So generally, we try to avoid that if we can. So I have customers that have hundreds of custom calcs. They've had OpenAir for a long time. They've created custom calcs, playing around, trying to come up with the right equation, the right value. I was just working with a customer the other night, trying to come up with the right combination of values to give them what they want. And we must have created 4 or 5 different custom calcs that they were testing before we got the right combination. One of the things that we recommend is being able to use the description field. So this is kind of another way you can see what the calc is doing. So as people are looking at the custom calcs, you can add the description. Also, if you're running under an advanced report, there's a summary report values that will show you all the standard values and what they mean. Well, they will also show you all of the custom calc values. And if you add a description to your custom calc, you will see that in that same report. So another housekeeping way to be able to keep your system clean and put the data in that can be valuable for other folks. One quick caution, this is interesting as well. In that description field, you can keep typing to your heart's desire. You could write a novel, but it's going to concatenate at 199 characters when you hit save. So I can't imagine anyone getting close to 199 characters, but it is a little bit of a odd behavior that it'll allow you to do that, despite the fact that it's there's a limitation. So again, just something FYI. So in summary, calculations can provide a really fun way to control the equations, customize your reporting to either show the labels you're looking to do, as well as getting the values you're looking to get. When you create these calcs, test them, make sure they're giving you consistent behavior, consistent results. We talked about letting the calculation do the work, avoiding filtering. And what I mean by filtering here, it's more around not dating, but more around other filtering, time types, task types, those types of filtering. Really, we recommend letting the calculation do the heavy lifting there, and that way you're not worried about having a double filter on the reports. And then by giving you more usability, creating those clear descriptions, and being able to have those folks understand when they're looking at the values, they can see what its intended purpose is. And let your math geek loose. Be creative. It's very satisfying for me once I'm able to figure out how to get a customer to the right value using a combination of custom calcs. So it can be very fulfilling if you're a math geek like me. So, all right. Well, that concludes today's presentation. Thank you for joining. Thanks for your loyalty. Obviously, Top Step is here to support you in anything OpenAir needed. If you have any questions or if you want to talk with me about anything, you can always go to our website, request a session for us to chat. We also send out tweets on a weekly basis, and we also have a LinkedIn group that we manage. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.